So you really want that new car that's coming out, but you can't quite afford to finance it. Well, that's okay because you can just get a lease. Well, wait a minute, because there are pros and cons to doing so, and you may be better off saving your money so you can finance the vehicle instead of throwing money at the car that you will never own. But more on that later. Let's get into the video. Let's start off on a positive note and talk about the benefits of leasing before we get into why you shouldn't. Of course, the first thing that everyone loves about a lease is that the payment is typically cheaper than a loan payment would be. This is typical of most vehicle leases, though in some weird situations I have seen a lease be more expensive than a loan payment. Of course, on top of that, you're going to be getting into a new vehicle, and that means you get a new vehicle factory warranty on the car instead of you having to pay for an extended service contract on a used car. To add to that, you'll have the car in its early years, so the chances of something catastrophic happening are pretty low. The dealer may even be nice enough to throw in free oil changes and scheduled maintenance. A new vehicle lease will also ensure you have the latest safety equipment in your vehicle, so you won't have to worry about running into anyone because you're probably going to have pre-collision assist and other things like blind spot monitoring. Not only is it cheaper every month to have a leased vehicle, but when you go to get rid of the vehicle when the lease is over, there's no hassle of trading the vehicle in or selling the car private party because all you have to do is turn the vehicle back into the dealer. If you're a business owner, a lease might also interest you because there can be some serious tax advantages to having a leased vehicle for your business. Consult your accountant on that though, because you should never take tax advice from someone off of YouTube. Those are all some pretty big benefits of a lease, but there are some big cons to leasing a vehicle, and they might be big enough to change your mind. Leasing usually costs more in the long run than an equivalent loan because you're paying for the car during the time when it's most rapidly depreciating. That means you're paying for the depreciation on that vehicle, which leads me into my next point, and that is that you don't get anything when the lease is finished. You have no equity in the vehicle, nor do you have a vehicle, and you'd either have to buy a vehicle or lease another one. If you lease one car after another, monthly payments will go on forever. Though, on the other hand, the longer you keep the vehicle after the loan is paid off, the more value you get out of it. Over the long term, the cheapest way to drive is to buy a car and keep it until it doesn't make financial sense to repair or maintain it anymore. Lease contracts also specify a set amount of mileage that you can drive each year, and those mileage limits are very strict. If you go over those mileage limits, you will incur fees from the dealer that you lease the vehicle from, and those fees can range anywhere from 10 cents a mile to 50 cents a mile. That means if you're 5,000 miles over your mileage limit, you'll pay upwards of $2,500 in fees, which is ridiculous. On top of the possible mileage fees, if you dare turn your leased vehicle in early, you could incur some outrageous fees. Dealers strictly enforce the time period for the lease that you agreed to. If you agree to the lease vehicle for 3 years and only keep it for 1, you could be responsible for all the money that you would have had to pay over those 3 years. Not every dealer will be that crabby about it, but it is possible, and don't expect to pay those fees over time because it will be demanded upfront when you turn the vehicle in. On top of that, if you bring the car back in bad condition, you might be subject to more fees from the dealer. So if you have kids that love to draw on things that isn't paper, maybe stay away from a lease. The worst part of it all is that even if you take wonderful care of the car and stay under your mileage limit, you may still have to pay fees when turning the vehicle back into the dealer. And don't expect to get money back when you stay under your mileage limit. Let's pretend you want to buy a base model, no options 2022 Mustang EcoBoost. After the fees and destination charges, the vehicle comes out to $29,245. If you were to lease this vehicle for 39 months for 10,500 miles per year and put 10% or $2,924 down when you're getting the car, your payment would be roughly $394 per month. Let me also mention that the first payment and the down payment are due when you sign the lease. Now, if you were to purchase this same car instead of leasing, the selling price would be $28,600. This is because Ford charges an acquisition cost on their leased vehicles. With 10% down or $2,860 over 72 months with a 5.9% interest rate, your payment would come to $426. That's a $32 difference in payments, except when you buy the car, you actually own it and you can do just about anything you want with it. Is that $32 savings worth the lower cost? Of course, there are some situations where leasing would make more sense. If you don't drive that much and you know you won't want to keep the car for that long, then a lease could make sense. On top of that, I also want to mention that when you buy a car, you don't have to make the first payment when you buy it on that day. The bank usually gives you 30 to 45 days to make the first payment on the car. Do you still feel confident about leasing that new car you've wanted? Sure, leasing has its benefits, and it's hard to shy away from that cheaper monthly payment, but is it worth the extra headache of dealing with all those other issues? Personally, I wouldn't lease a vehicle. I like the idea of being able to modify and treat my car the way I want, and without having a mileage limit. Seriously, what's fun about a car you can't drive as much as you want? However, if you are only going from work and home and the grocery store and you have no kids, a lease might be right for you, and with the growing amount of people working at home, vehicle leases have begun to look more and more intriguing. Thank you for watching today's video. If you want to see more from us, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next video.